Well, a big hello and good morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on when you are tuning into this latest Susty Talk episode from Edie. We've been running this series of interviews with sustainability leaders now for, I think, more than a year as we come into the sort of 15-month mark of COVID-19, and it's been a pleasure to keep you all connected during this time. Today on the call, I'm delighted to have Andy Tomkins, who is the Sustainability Engagement Manager at Canon for the EMEA region. So a very good afternoon to you, Andy, and how are you?
Good afternoon, Sarah. I'm very, very well, thank you, and a pleasure to join you and discuss sustainability and what Canon are doing today with you.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. I know it's a busy time, both for us here trying to cover COP26 and G7, and for yourself with the event. And obviously, we're in the middle of a heat wave here in the UK, so I hope to cover as much ground as possible in this short time. So I guess a good place to start, seeing as we haven't had you on for interview before, is with how sustainability is set up at Canon, because obviously you've got that title of engagement manager. But obviously there'll be things to be done within operations as well. And then you've got that EMEA responsibility, but it is obviously a global company.
Yeah, sure. So I think, well, before I get into kind of the setup, I think first of all, I'd like to just give you a bit of an overview of how sort of sustainability kind of functions and operates at Canon. Canon really operates according to a corporate philosophy of Kyosai, which is a Japanese word meaning living and working together for the common good. So this really underpins everything we do as a business and shapes our approach to sustainability. Now, we use the UN Sustainable Development Goals to help us define the common good and provide a framework for us to manage our social and environmental impacts. Now, our approach to sustainability is really designed to give customers confidence that we're a responsible choice, and we can demonstrate this through being a signatory to the UN Global Compact and being members of the RBA. We also deliver the ability for our customers to reduce their environmental impacts as well as our own. And for this, we are CDPA listed for our approach to climate change and operate a global 14001 accredited environmental management system. Again, this really ensures that we offer products and services that help customers reduce their environmental impacts. And the final area of our kind of sustainability messaging and strategy is around social value creation. So we collaborate with organisations to deliver programmes that create social value and benefits. So for example, we work with the UN Sustainable Development Goals Action Campaign to give young people a visual voice on issues affecting their future through our Young People programme, which I implore you to check out via hitting YouTube and just popping in Canon Young People programme, and you can get a real flavour of what we're doing there. But in terms of setup itself, sustainability at Canon is rather complex. Kind of managed in two discrete parts. Firstly, we have a team managing the compliance related matters across Europe, Middle East and Africa. This is headed up by my colleague Wanda Saeed El-Ghouiz and her regional support managers, who in turn have their own direct reports in the countries. This team is really there to ensure that the products and services we sell into the EMEA regions are in line with all relevant environmental, chemical and safety regulations. They also actively monitor developing regulations and work with trade associations to bring these regulations to fruition. Then we have the sustainability engagement team, which is where I sit. This area is kind of co-managed by myself and 6 other employees across EMEA. We are responsible for creating customer-facing messaging linked to sustainability, supporting the sales teams discuss sustainability with our customers, including through tenders, but also through face-to-face meetings and email conversations. In addition, we're also responsible for developing a circular economy and CO2 reduction strategies, which we then work with the relevant business areas to bring to fruition. So both the compliance and engagement teams regularly engage with our Canon Inc. counterparts in Tokyo to explain, one, the developing regulations, but also the customer demands, which are really shaping the sustainability agenda here in the EMEA, and how this impacts the way we manufacture and design products. So there's that constant loop back, if you like, to the kind of manufacturing arm of Canon Group. So they can redesign products in accordance with the developing regulations and customer demands here in the EU region particularly, but right across EMEA.
Fantastic, and obviously there's a lot of issues there that we could come on to, but I'm going to start with e-waste just because this is such a hot topic at the moment. So at G7 this week we've got this great statue of, I don't know if you've seen it, of these faces of world leaders called Mount Recycle More, and it's just made of things like old keyboards and discarded mobile phones. And I wanted to come on to talk about how, as I've said, we've been working remotely for more than a year. So what's that doing to e-waste, and how the business community can step in and adapt to that change?
Yeah, good question. I think, with remote working, technology needs of employees have changed quite significantly, and we've seen an increased amount of hardware, including laptops, mobile phones, Wi-Fi dongles, mouses, keyboards, as you mentioned, enter kind of the home office ecosystem to support that new way of working. And as businesses are now transitioning to a more hybrid model moving to the future, because I'm pretty sure we're not going to be back into old world in its entirety, we do anticipate that many more businesses will be reviewing and consolidating their IT assets, which in many cases will see kind of older devices disposed of, particularly in the kind of shared office environment. So this causes a problem because the UN have recently found that only sort of 17.4% of e-waste is actually recycled, which is a big issue. With laptops, for example, 160,000 are sent to landfill every day in the EU, yet 70% of those laptops could be reused. One solution to this problem could be through dematerialisation. In this situation, a company would lease electronic equipment and recall the product to be repaired, recycled or remanufactured at end of life. So rather than it being, okay, we purchase you a laptop or a piece of hardware, that's yours until end of life, actually it goes back to the company and it's theirs throughout the leasing cycle. This model has been successful for many businesses in the B2B sector, including Canon, and could also be translated in consumer model for more personal items like mobile phones and laptops. And of course, we see this heavily in the mobile phone sector with a number of companies looking to recall old mobile phones so they can reman and refurb them into new products. But in order to do this reman and refurb, I think manufacturers need to design their product lines so they can be taken apart with maximum recovery of materials in mind. So with some of our printer models, we've been able to achieve up to an 80% reduction of the raw materials arising from the sourcing, manufacturing and transport phases of the life cycle in comparison to the manufacture of a new product through collecting old models which are still fully functioning and operating and remanufacturing them at our purpose-built facility in Gießen. We call this product line our EQ80, and again I'd implore you to check this out in a bit more detail on our website because I won't have enough time to cover it fully today. But yeah, remanufacturing and the lease model seems to be a really good way of trying to reduce the global e-waste problem by keeping electronic products in circulation for longer and dematerialising the whole kind of sales cycle.
And you've mentioned that a lot of other companies have had success in this with B2B. So I wanted to get your thoughts on whether it could eventually be B2C and what the challenges are there.
Yeah, I suppose some of the big challenges are when it comes to kind of the B2C market is from the customer perspective, there's a big demand for new still rather than to purchase kind of a reman or refurbished product. These are seen to be kind of secondhand used, and the opinion is that new is better, but this isn't always the case. So our remanufactured products are completely on a par with our new products. So we reset the counter to zero. We offer a full functioning warranty over the life of the product. So I think we need to start trying to define our kind of procurement needs through functionality rather than through a brand new model. So there needs to be some education about what the different options are for electronics at the end of the life as well for the consumers. So we need to obviously encourage consumers to return and recover those items back to the manufacturer so we can successfully recover them for reuse, repair or remanufacture stroke refurbishment. And I think this is really where the key demand is. So when a B2B setting, you're often delivering a magnitude of products on a lease model, which you then collect from one premise. When it comes to the B2C environment, there are obviously some challenges when it comes to the reverse logistics side of getting those products back to the manufacturer in an economically viable way. So that can be another challenge. The fact that, you know, ultimately, if it's a fairly low value item, by the time you've recovered it from the customer, brought it back to a central location for repair or remanufacture, the cost of the remanufactured product could be dearer, could be greater than the cost of a new product, which makes the whole kind of process uneconomically viable and not fit for purpose. So consideration really needs to be given to kind of what products you want to recall and how you are going to extract value from them. And where there isn't a requirement to kind of bring these products back to the manufacturer, you know, there needs to be a solution in place where you can explain to the customer exactly how to responsibly dispose of those items.
Great. And we've mentioned there some of the things that businesses can do and the challenges that businesses are facing with that. But is there anything that policy could do to help change that, or otherwise with models to just stop those laptops and things leaking? I was shocked when you said how many laptops would go to landfill in the EU, which we think of as being a good geography for recycling and dealing with waste.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of policy change that could bring about positive sort of sustainable development. So driving and incentivizing reuse, refurb and repair to make it financially viable for both manufacturers and consumers would be a real win for the circular economy. Perhaps there's ways that we can work together as kind of an industry rather than trying to work in solo to grab products back from customers. And maybe there's room to work with governments to create collection facilities, which then the manufacturers can have access to and obtain any product or good that could potentially be used, reused, repaired or refurbished. In addition to that, we do have a lot of right to repair legislation coming up. They're already in place in the EU, and it's looking to expand the scope across to cover all electronic products. This right to repair is really driving the ability to keep a product in use longer, and is including, for example, the provision of spare parts for sort of 5 to 10 years. Now, I see this as a real win because when I look at kind of e-waste, the majority of it seems to be the low value items where there is no repair model available due to the fact that, you know, shipping the product back to the manufacturer, then repairing it and returning it would outweigh the cost of procuring a brand new good. So it's really, really positive to see that we're being pushed in the direction of, okay, it doesn't matter what the economic value of the product is, you need to be able to repair it for a minimum of 5 years to keep it in circulation and prevent the excessive creation of e-waste. Now, I'd also kind of look at the WEEE directive itself. So the WEEE directive has been in place for quite a while now. And of course, that's about kind of what you do at end of life with products. But it's really geared up for recycling. So it's encouraging us to recycle and report back the volumes that we do recycle. Now, while recycling may sound like a cornerstone of responsible business behaviour, this process has its limitation when used alone. Firstly, removing the precious and reusable metals from electronic components can be a very toxic process. Secondly, when the products are simply discarded via recycling programs, they often end up in the same regions that are mined to create those products in the first place. So this creates a bit of a burden of production and recycling in an unevenly weighted around the world. So for me, I think the WEEE directive's got to expand and look more to include kind of the reuse and recovery of material rather than just pushing to recycle. Now, the last area of policy I'd like to see, and of course it is coming, is around the plastic tax. Now, this is mainly linked, in my opinion, to kind of packaging rather than kind of electronic product. But plastic tax to eliminate the use of single-use plastic is going to be a particularly positive driving force for the circular economy and the sustainability agenda moving forward.
I did actually want to come on to that because when we think of a company like Canon, as well as thinking of our electronics and electricals, we probably do think about paper and about some of those plastics as well. So like some cartridges, some of the packaging. So I think it'd be great to round off and look at, yeah, what's been done there and whether you have anything coming up that you could tell us about at this point.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, with print, there's a whole operation that goes alongside it. So yes, you've got the manufacture of the hardware, but then you've got the consumables that go with it and the packaging that we sort of send the goods and the consumables into the consumer. So let's start with the paper. So first of all, it's important to recognise that the paper itself can make up to kind of 60% of the environmental impact of the use phase of printing. Now, this is a result of the carbon emissions that arise as a result of sourcing, manufacturing and transporting the paper. So the use of different paper types can significantly reduce the sustainable impacts arising from print operations, not only in terms of carbon emissions, but also in terms of deforestation, which is the biggest issue related to kind of the paper industry. But Canon has a good process in place, so we ensure that all of our Canon branded media products are sourced from recycled FSC or PEFC certified sources. This really ensures that the paper is produced from responsibly managed forests, preventing biodiversity and habitat loss through deforestation. In addition to offering kind of deforestation-free paper, we offer a variety of climate neutral paper options. These paper options have the carbon emissions associated with the manufacturing and transportation offset. And this really helps reduce the overall kind of carbon footprint of the print operation. And it's not just a case of offsetting the emissions, it's working with the paper mills to make sure they're running as efficiently as possible and delivering genuine reductions in addition to the offsetting of the unavoidable pot of emissions that is left. So paper, big issue from both a carbon and a deforestation perspective, and hopefully I've given you a good understanding of how Canon is tackling those areas. When it comes to plastics, since 2008, Canon has taken around 40,000 tonnes of plastic from used products for recycling as raw materials and about 31,000 tonnes of products for direct reuse. So this really shows what happens when we grab those machines back. And not all of them are able to be fully reused, and some, of course, need to be recycled due to the condition of the machine after its contractual period. So we are heavily focusing on trying to increase the sale of our remanufactured and refurbished products across EMEA. We also operate 5 recycling plants globally, 2 in Europe, where we operate our award-winning toner cartridge recycling program, which is now 30 years old and was the first of its kind in the industry. So through this program, we've recycled around 42,000 tonnes of cartridges globally. And this happens right across the industry. And we'll talk a bit more about that when we come on to kind of consumables. We also look to, of course, remanufacture the products, which I spoke about earlier. And this really helps us to drive dematerialisation through the reuse of parts and materials. When we scale up the savings from the kind of remanufacturing programs for our EQ80, we can really look at kind of savings of around 5.5 million kilograms of material. So significant reduction in raw material sourcing as a result of that remanufacturing. We're also looking to incorporate recycled plastics more into our products, and there are legislations and rankings that are pushing that agenda forward as well, particularly the Blue Angel in Germany. So that's what we're doing when it comes to kind of paper and plastics. Now, when we look at packaging, Canon participates in packaging recycling schemes and helps finance the collection of recycling and packaging waste. This is in line with the European Union Directive on Packaging and Packaging Waste, and we comply with this across all areas of our business. In addition to complying with the packaging regulations, we use recycled materials within our packaging where we can, including the use of cardboard rather than wooden pallets and the use of pulp molds to package smaller products rather than organically derived polystyrene. When it comes to kind of our B2B business, we deliver an efficient and responsible packaging process through our pre-delivery installation process. So basically all our packages are removed in a Canon warehouse, and the machines are then pre-configured so they can go start and be installed immediately. So all of the waste is left with Canon, and we reuse this to transport the goods back and forward to our customers over time. Anything that is eventually gets to the point where it's no longer usable, then of course we recycle that as best we possibly can using local and also international facilities. When it comes to the toner packaging, so we often ship a lot of toner. So this is probably the most delivered item from Canon. These are the consumables you use to run in the print machines. We use a packaging material called air shell, which uses air pressure to improve the cushioning of the packaging. And it helps to reduce the size of the overall packaging by up to 30%. This improves the loading efficiency, i.e. we can get more boxes on the van and reduce the CO2 emissions for the transport of each toner by up to 20%. We're going further than this though, and we're looking to do a test shipment where we contain no secondary packaging on the carton at all. So we just send the toner bottle in its original packaging without any delivery packaging on top. And we've done a good test trial actually in the Netherlands a few months back. And now we're looking to roll this out into new areas such as Benelux, Germany, UK, Switzerland, and other areas of our business. Now, if we look forward in time and what's on the horizon, now we've set ourselves the target of producing 100% recyclable packaging for inkjet cartridges, which we hope to have in place by sort of 2022. This packaging is predominantly used by retailers rather than Canon directly, to prevent pilfering instead of standard cardboard packaging, which is fully recyclable at end of life. Now, we're also building on from the carbon neutral paper options that I spoke about a little bit earlier, and are looking to deliver a full carbon offset service to our customers so they can offset the carbon emissions that arise during the use phase of Canon products. So we're doing this through a third-party service provider, and it's based on the customer's exact printing operations. So we plumb in very specific information to create a bespoke carbon footprint, which we can then attribute to an offset by finding a program that abates the same amount of carbon in a different place. Now, all of these projects are gold certified and are accredited to ISO 16759 carbon footprint analysis. At the end of the program, customers are provided with certificates and labels for their products. They're able to communicate that their print operations are completely carbon neutral, or net carbon zero as the kind of new term is, which we're really excited about looking to roll out, especially given the agenda of net carbon zero and the support our customers are asking to provide them. In addition to this, we are looking to co-create 2030 EMEA sustainability commitments this year with the varying business units across Canon. So right down from our camera business right up to our kind of professional print business. And we'll be looking to work with them to identify their core impacts and then set some targets against them to improve. So hopefully that gives you a good flavour of kind of where Canon are and where we're moving towards on our sustainability journey.
Yeah, lots of there. That's a much broader question than I originally intended. So thank you for taking the time. And yeah, we'll keep an eye out for some of that exciting stuff that you've mentioned that's coming up this year, I'm sure. So I look forward to hearing from you, Andy. But for today, I think that's all we have time for this Susty talk.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me to have a conversation with you. And I hope that's been helpful. And I hope the audience can really get a good flavour of how Canon are trying to grasp the sustainability agenda and drive it forward across all of our operations.